welcome to my channel. The first rays of morning sunlight slanted through my bedroom window, glinting off the polished surfaces of my apartment, yet for some reason I felt more trapped than ever. I sat on the edge of my bed, running my hands through my hair, trying to shake the lingering sense of dread that had kept me tossing and turning all night. Today wasn't just any day, it was the day my sister Vanessa had made her bet, a bet that had begun as a joke but had escalated into something far more serious, far more personal. I am Alex, 24, working as a junior graphic designer at a small but bustling firm downtown. My life on the surface was fairly ordinary. Projects to complete, deadlines to meet, coffee breaks with coworkers, the occasional video call with my girlfriend Isabella. But beneath that facade, I had always carried a secret passion, an affinity for dressing as a woman. Not for anyone else, not for exhibition, but as a private exploration of identity, a form of self-expression I had kept tucked away in the deepest corners of my life. Vanessa, my older sister by 2 years, was the opposite of me in almost every imaginable way. Outgoing, confident, socially magnetic, and occasionally mischievous, she had always loved to tease me. Yet the teasing had escalated recently into something far more daring. A bet, thrown casually over dinner one night, had spiraled into a challenge I could no longer ignore. "If you can't pull this off convincingly, Alex," she had said with that familiar smirk, "then I get to live with the results." I hadn't imagined she would take it this far, but now the reality of the bet was hitting me like a tidal wave. The apartment was quiet, almost too quiet. Isabella had left early for a friend's gathering, giving me the rare window I had longed for in secret. Time to explore, to transform, to see just how convincingly I could become my sister's twin, the persona she had challenged me to embody. My pulse quickened as I considered the task ahead. Every detail mattered. Voice, posture, gestures, even the subtle sway of a skirt as I moved across the room. I knew that Vanessa would scrutinize every inch of me, but the idea of potentially deceiving her, and even myself, was exhilarating. I moved toward my wardrobe, hesitating before opening the door. Inside were the clothes I had long hidden away, pieces I had collected over the years in private. Skirts, blouses, dresses, and the occasional pair of delicate heels. Today they weren't just clothes. They were tools, instruments to sculpt a new identity, to step into a persona that was at once daring, seductive, and vulnerable. The very thought sent shivers down my spine. I had played with this before in the quiet of my room, but never with such stakes. Never under the looming gaze of a challenge set by someone as perceptive as Vanessa. As I began selecting the outfit, my mind wandered to Isabella. She had always been supportive, even if unaware of the full extent of my secret. Her acceptance, or lack thereof, was a constant undercurrent of anxiety in my life. The thought of her returning early and discovering me in this new form sent a thrill of fear rippling through me. What would she think? Would she understand? Or would she see only the deception, the audacity, the folly of my actions? I carefully chose a soft pastel blouse that clung just enough to suggest shape without being overt, pairing it with a knee-length skirt that swished lightly as I walked. The sensation of the fabric against my skin was electric, sending a jolt through my body that I could neither deny nor fully embrace. I slipped on a pair of modest heels, adjusting my posture, feeling the subtle shift in balance that came with each step. Standing in front of the mirror, I took a deep breath, letting my hands trace the contours of my reflection. Alex, Vanessa, Emma. They were all there, layered and coexisting, each one a fragment of the truth I was about to explore. The reflection staring back at me was both familiar and foreign. My hands moved to my face, adjusting makeup with precision, the brush gliding over cheeks and eyes, shaping features that were only vaguely my own. The thrill of transformation coursed through me, mingled with fear. Vanessa had never underestimated me, and I had never underestimated her. The stakes were high, and the consequences of failure loomed large. Yet beneath the fear, an intoxicating excitement surged. I was about to inhabit a persona so convincing that it might blur the lines of reality itself. The apartment, once ordinary, now felt like a stage. Every shadow, every ray of light, every quiet hum of the refrigerator seemed magnified. I practiced gestures, tilting my head slightly, letting my hair fall naturally across my shoulders, perfecting a voice that was softer, gentler, more feminine. Each small detail was a step deeper into the challenge, each adjustment a test of skill and nerve. The tension was almost unbearable, but I reveled in it. The thrill of risk, the allure of possibility, and the intoxicating promise of becoming something more than myself. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Every creak of the floor, every distant sound of traffic, every flutter of a curtain in the breeze reminded me that I wasn't alone, that the challenge awaited, that the transformation wasn't just cosmetic. It was emotional, psychological, and deeply personal. Vanessa's bet was more than a playful dare. It was a catalyst, pushing me toward a truth I had long suppressed and a persona I had never dared fully explore. I took one last, steadying breath, feeling the heels press against my feet, the skirt brush against my legs, the blouse cling to my torso. I looked at the mirror, at the reflection that was simultaneously Alex and Vanessa's twin, and whispered softly to myself, I can do this. I have to do this. And with that, the stage was set, the tension was primed, and the first step into the suspenseful journey of transformation had begun. The bet wasn't just a challenge. It was an awakening, a doorway into a world of identity, desire, fear, and revelation that would test every part of me. The journey ahead promised drama, risk, and discovery, and there was no turning back now. This introduction section establishes Alex, the stakes of Vanessa's bet, the internal conflict, and the initial setting the stage for the suspenseful build-up. When you're ready, I can start the build-up section next, diving into Alex's transformation, internal struggle, and escalating tension. Do you want me to proceed with the build-up? The morning light had shifted across the room, brushing warm streaks against the walls, yet I felt no comfort. Each passing minute brought a mix of excitement and fear I had never experienced. Vanessa's bet was more than a challenge. It had become a test of identity, a trial that demanded every ounce of courage I possessed. I started with small, deliberate movements. A tilt of the head, a sway in the hips, a softening of my voice as I practiced greetings to an imaginary Vanessa. The mirror reflected not just my image but a layered presence. Alex, uncertain and hesitant, and the twin persona I was constructing, poised, elegant, and daring. I adjusted my blouse again, smoothing out a wrinkle, and my hands lingered for a moment too long on my collarbone, a gesture that seemed alien yet right. The challenge wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Vanessa had always known me too well. She could see through pretense, detect hesitation, and recognize insecurity. The thought of her scrutinizing me sent a tremor through my chest. I had to embody her twin flawlessly, not merely in appearance but in poise, gestures, and confidence. Every step I took had to be deliberate, calculated, and believable. The makeup process was next, a ritual I had performed countless times in private, but never with stakes this high. Foundation, concealer, a soft dusting of blush, subtle eyeshadow, and a hint of lip gloss. Each stroke transformed me not just physically but emotionally. I could feel Emma, or Vanessa's twin version, emerging with every brush, her presence filling spaces I didn't know existed within me. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. But with excitement came anxiety. The fear of discovery gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. What if Isabella returned early? What if Vanessa walked in without warning? Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the faint creak of a floorboard, the rustle of the curtains, felt amplified, a warning that my secret could be exposed at any moment. My heart raced, threatening to betray me in a tremor, a slip of the wig, or a falter in my posture. I chose my accessories carefully. A simple necklace, a delicate bracelet, earrings that glinted softly in the morning light. Each piece was a layer, a mask, a fragment of authenticity I hoped would convince anyone who looked at me that I truly belonged in this persona. The shoes clicked on the floor with precise rhythm, echoing through the apartment and reminding me of the balance I had to maintain between fear and composure. Hours passed in this suspended reality. I moved from mirror to mirror, hallway to living room, practicing gestures, voice inflections, and subtle expressions. Each step, each glance was a negotiation between Alex and Emma, the original self and the twin persona. I laughed softly to myself, a delicate sound that felt foreign, and yet it was precisely the sound Vanessa would expect from her twin. The thrill of transformation surged within me, paired with the ever-present tension of potential discovery. The suspense heightened when I heard a faint noise outside the apartment, the mail slot rattling, footsteps in the corridor. My breath caught. I froze mid-gesture, heart hammering in my chest. Could it be Vanessa? Isabella? A neighbor? Each possibility carried its own consequences. and the thought of being caught mid-transformation made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I retreated to the living room, where light streamed through the windows in soft, angled rays. The room became my stage. Each movement was deliberate, each glance toward the mirror rehearsed. I felt my pulse in my ears, a constant reminder that this experiment was no longer private. This was a performance, a high-stakes act of deception and self-discovery. As the afternoon sun began to tilt lower in the sky, I noticed subtle changes in my reflection. Emma's posture more confident, my gestures more natural, my voice resonating with a timbre that was no longer hesitant. It was working. I was becoming her twin convincingly, almost frighteningly so. Yet the very success brought new fears. The more authentic I became, the more I risked losing control over where Alex ended and Emma began. Then the first real challenge arrived. My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. Running a bit late. See you soon. My pulse quickened. Soon meant now, soon meant she could arrive at any moment and the duality of my life might be exposed in an instant. I glanced at the mirror, taking in the full effect of the transformation. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, outfit fitting impeccably, and wondered if I could maintain this illusion under scrutiny. I practiced a few deep, controlled breaths, reminding myself of Vanessa's instructions, her teasing words echoing in my mind. Convince me or face the consequences. The weight of the bet pressed down on me. This wasn't just about appearance. It was about embodying another identity so completely that it could fool even the most observant eyes. I could feel a shiver of both fear and excitement ripple through me, a sensation I had never known could be so potent. Minutes stretched into a delicate dance. I moved around the apartment, shifting between mirrors, practicing entrances and exits, testing voice inflections, adjusting my stance. Every detail mattered. Each gesture carried significance, a marker of authenticity that could make or break the illusion. The adrenaline coursed through me, sharpening my senses. I was acutely aware of every sound, the refrigerator humming, the wind rattling the windows, the faint footsteps of neighbors outside. And then a sudden knock at the door froze me mid-step. My heart leapt into my throat. Who could it be? Vanessa? Isabella? Someone else? I froze, heels clicking softly against the floor as I debated whether to answer or retreat into another room. The knock repeated, sharper this time, and I realized the moment of reckoning had arrived. I glanced in the mirror, taking in the twin persona I had crafted with such care. Every detail, from hair to posture, from makeup to clothing, was perfect. I was ready. I just had to be brave. I moved toward the door, my pulse thundering, every fiber of my being focused on maintaining the illusion. And in that moment, standing on the precipice of discovery, the apartment seemed to contract around me. Shadows lengthened, light shifted, and every sound was magnified. The suspense was almost unbearable. One step, one word, one gesture could determine the outcome of Vanessa's bet, and perhaps reveal a truth I wasn't ready to face. I reached for the door handle, hand trembling, breath shallow. Outside, the knocking continued, each tap a reminder of the challenge, the stakes, the thrill. And as I turned the knob, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the revelation, the confrontation, the moment that would decide whether Alex or Emma would prevail. The apartment felt suffocating, every shadow exaggerated by the late afternoon sun. I had been rehearsing, practicing every movement, every word, every tilt of my head, but now it wasn't enough. The knock at the door earlier had been just the beginning. My pulse raced as I realized that the moment of truth, the moment where Vanessa, Isabella, or both could discover me, was imminent. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my eye. Alex, standing in heels and a flowing skirt, shoulders tense, eyes wide with anticipation. The persona I had crafted, Emma, my sister's twin, stood alongside me in the glass, every gesture, every expression honed to perfection. But the line between the two of us had blurred. I wasn't just Alex pretending anymore. I felt her presence inside me, guiding my movements, influencing my thoughts. Then the unmistakable sound of footsteps approached the apartment from the corridor. Slow, deliberate, and precise. My heart stuttered. Vanessa. He was coming. I had counted on having more time to perfect the illusion, to settle into this dual identity, but fate had other plans. I took a deep breath, steadying my shaking hands as I moved to meet her, heels clicking lightly against the floor. The door swung open and Vanessa stood there, her eyes narrowing in scrutiny. She tilted her head, a smirk tugging at her lips, and said, "So this is the masterpiece?" Her voice was teasing, yet there was an edge, an almost predatory curiosity that made my stomach twist. I forced a calm smile, stepping forward. "Hi, Vanessa. I thought I'd try it out just like you asked." My voice wavered, betraying the nerves I struggled to hide. She circled me like a jeweler examining a diamond. Her eyes scanned every inch of my outfit, the makeup, the way I held myself. I could feel her mind calculating, measuring the authenticity of my performance. Not bad," she said slowly, the words dripping with both amusement and approval. "But can you maintain it under pressure?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a message from Isabella. "Running late. Might be home sooner than expected." My stomach dropped. Every second now was critical. Could I maintain Emma convincingly if Isabella walked through that door? Would my secret be revealed in an instant? Vanessa, reading my expression, chuckled softly. "Don't look so tense. The real test is coming, and I want to see how convincing you can be." She gestured to the living room. "Sit. Let's see if you can behave like her while we interact." I moved cautiously, every step deliberate, aware of the heightened stakes. I tried to relax, to inhabit Emma fully, but the tension coiled tightly in my chest. Every fiber of my body screamed with anticipation, fear, and exhilaration. The persona I had built over hours, or perhaps lifetimes, was about to face its ultimate scrutiny. The test began with casual conversation. Vanessa asked questions I had anticipated, but each answer carried weight. I had to respond with Emma's persona, voice soft and melodic, gestures natural yet feminine, expressions carefully measured. My mind raced with the mechanics of speech and body language, each syllable a delicate balancing act. Suddenly, a knock at the door startled me. My heart lurched. "Isabella?" I froze, caught mid-sentence, unsure how to respond. Vanessa's eyes gleamed with mischief, clearly enjoying my panic. "Go on," she said softly, a dangerous edge in her tone. "Let's see how graceful you can be under real pressure." I moved toward the door, forcing calm into my movements. Each click of my heels was deafening in my own ears. I opened the door to find Isabella, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Alex." "Emma?" she asked, taking in the full transformation. My stomach dropped as she stepped inside, eyes scanning the outfit, the hair, the subtle shifts in posture. Vanessa's laughter filled the room, light and taunting. "Surprise," she said, reveling in the chaos she had orchestrated. My pulse raced, adrenaline spiking as I realized that the stakes had skyrocketed beyond anything I had anticipated. I could feel Emma's presence surging inside me, guiding my voice, my gestures, my expressions. I had to maintain the illusion or risk losing control entirely. Every interaction became a delicate dance of deception. Isabella asked questions, laughed, observed, and commented, and I had to respond in perfect synchrony, balancing Alex's nervous energy with Emma's composed elegance. Vanessa's scrutiny never wavered. She leaned against the wall, watching, smiling, and occasionally offering a sly remark to keep me off balance. Then came the symbolic moment. The skirt I had carefully chosen snagged on the edge of the coffee table, slipping slightly as I pivoted. My heart froze. A small, subtle adjustment could save the moment, but if I fumbled, the illusion would shatter. My hands moved instinctively, smoothing the fabric, a surge of fear and exhilaration rushing through me. Vanessa's eyes sparkled with amusement, and even Isabella's gaze softened, showing admiration rather than suspicion. Minutes stretched into an eternity, the tension almost unbearable. Each word, each gesture, each breath was a test of composure, authenticity, and nerve. And then the final challenge arrived. Vanessa leaned forward and said, "Oh, let's see you leave the apartment like this. Make a convincing appearance out there. Can you do it?" I nodded, knees slightly trembling, and walked toward the door. Each step was a performance, each sway of the skirt, each tilt of the head carefully executed. The hallway outside seemed to expand, shadows lengthening, sounds magnified. My pulse thundered, adrenaline sharpened every sense, and for a moment the duality of Alex and Emma merged completely. As I stepped out, Isabella following cautiously behind, I felt a surge of triumph and terror. Vanessa's bet had pushed me beyond comfort, beyond hesitation, and into a space where identity, fear, desire, and revelation intertwined. The journey had not just transformed my appearance, it had transformed me. Yet the climax wasn't over. The real world waited, full of unknowns, judgment, and the possibility of exposure. The door closed behind us, leaving a lingering sense of suspense, uncertainty, and exhilaration. The stakes had never been higher, and I knew that the resolution, the truth of whether Alex or Emma would prevail, remained just out of reach. The apartment was quiet again, but the silence was heavy, thick with tension. Vanessa had left only moments ago, her smirk still lingering in my memory, and Isabella remained behind, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and curiosity. I stood frozen, unsure whether to breathe, move, or speak as the weight of the moment settled around me. Isabella's gaze swept over me, lingering on details I hadn't even noticed. The slight tilt of my head, the carefully smoothed skirt, the faint blush on my cheeks, the subtle shimmer of my necklace. My heart raced, every beat echoing in my chest as I wondered what she was thinking. Could she see through the layers of persona I had constructed? Was she detecting Alex beneath Emma, or had I managed to fully convince her of the twin I had become? Alex, or Emma? She finally whispered, her voice trembling with curiosity and uncertainty. The words hung in the air, suspended between revelation and disbelief. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. What could I say? How could I explain the hours of transformation, the bet with Vanessa, the thrill and fear and vulnerability that had consumed me? Before I could gather my thoughts, the doorbell rang. Both of us froze. Vanessa? Another neighbor? The timing was too perfect, too cruel. I glanced at Isabella, her expression mirroring my own tension. My mind raced. What if someone walked in right now? What if everything unraveled in an instant? I edged toward the door, heels clicking softly against the floor, and peeked through the peephole. A delivery box sat on the mat, but no person in sight. Relieved but still on edge, I reached for the door. The weight of the bet pressed on me again, reminding me that the challenge wasn't over. Vanessa's eyes, her smirk, her words, they were still in my mind, echoing like a mantra. Convince me or face the consequences. Isabella moved closer, her hand brushing mine. Are you really okay? She asked softly. I nodded, but the truth was more complicated. I was exhilarated, terrified, and emotionally spent all at once. The duality inside me, Alex and Emma, was tangled in ways I hadn't expected. I had succeeded in the performance, but at what cost? As I set the delivery box down, a note slipped out and fluttered to the floor. I picked it up, my pulse accelerating again. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Vanessa. I unfolded the paper and read the brief message. Well done. But are you really done? Or is this just the beginning? A shiver ran down my spine. Vanessa's bet had been just the start, and now a new layer of suspense had emerged. What did she mean by the beginning? Was there another challenge waiting? Another twist that could expose me? I glanced at Isabella, whose expression shifted from curiosity to concern, and suddenly the tension became almost unbearable. I could feel Emma inside me, whispering encouragement, daring me to embrace the persona fully, to push boundaries even further. Yet a small, anxious voice reminded me of Alex, the part of me that feared exposure, judgment, and rejection. The clash of identities left me trembling, unsure which path to take. The afternoon light waned, casting long shadows across the room. Outside, the city moved on, oblivious to the drama unfolding within these walls. Inside, however, every heartbeat was magnified, every breath heavy with suspense, and every glance in the mirror a reminder of the stakes I had chosen to face. And then, just as I thought I could catch my breath, I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound from the corridor outside. Footsteps. Someone approaching. My heart leapt. Vanessa? Isabella? Or someone entirely unexpected? I froze, every muscle taut, eyes darting toward the door, heels pressing into the floor as I weighed my options. The story paused in that fragile moment. Alex, Emma, the bet, the secrets, and the suspense hanging in perfect balance. Every possibility was alive. Being discovered, being accepted, or stepping further into the twin persona I had created. The audience could feel it too. The thrill, the anxiety, the irresistible tension of uncertainty. I looked at Isabella, whose gaze met mine, filled with questions unspoken and emotions unreadable. I realized that the story was far from over. The bet had set me on a path that blurred identities, challenged perceptions, and forced me to confront truths I hadn't dared face before. And now, in this single suspended moment, the question remained: would I be caught, embraced, or pushed further into the persona I had crafted? The door creaked slightly, a shadow moving behind the frosted glass. My pulse thundered in my ears. I swallowed hard, hands trembling, and whispered under my breath, "Here we go, whatever happens next." And then cut to black.